finished rereading the first Hunger Games book. And damn, much I forgot, and so much went over my head when I was 11 versus now at 19. Again, this is the first time I've read this book since in 8 years. That's insane to me. And it's the things that they changed. Like, there were some things that I remembered and some things I didn't. One of the things that I'm like, oh, kind of wish this was in the movie, was the Avox. Because, like, I did remember her, but I kind of forgot how kind of she was there throughout a lot of more of the book than I remembered initially. Another part of it is, like, I'm more and more understanding what people say when they say Katniss is autistic coded, because she is. Another thing I'm starting to really get is, like, the jokes people make about how Katniss, like, thought that the whole time Peta having feelings for her was just a strategy, when it's like, no, sweetie. One thing that, like, when I watch the movies, I feel like I see that I feel like they're faking it, and I feel like Peta is aware, but I don't know, maybe I need to rewatch the movie. But I guess I kind of forgot that in the first book, when she was acting all, like, affectionate to Peta, that he thought that it was real. And he didn't know that for Katniss it was an act, or at least, you know, partially, until the end of the book. Plus, like, overall, she was just generally more affectionate, and they really, you know, they only got 2 sponsors. Katniss only got 2 sponsors, or 3? No, 2. In the movie, she only got 2. One when she got hurt from the fire, and one when she kissed Peta and they sent the broth. Versus in this, she really, like, they got sponsors from playing up the star-crossed lovers from District 12 thing. So she just kept, like, playing up the act and being affectionate, and then in turn they got sponsors. And on top of that, one thing that's emphasized is, you know, that isn't so much in the movie, is how she sees Prim in Rue, which just makes her death even more heartbreaking. Like, she slipped up in the book and called Rue Prim. And, you know, I did remember that in the book, Peta lost his leg, and Katniss briefly lost her hearing in one ear. But still, it's worth noting that was something that I think they should have kept in the movie. And the Mutts at the end of the book. Now, I forgot that this actually happened, but recently I read a Hunger Games AU for a different fandom I'm in, and they had that scene included where the Mutts were the old tributes, and I didn't know for sure if that actually happened in the books, but now, like, I've reread it, and now I know that it did, and that's something that it's like, wow. That would have been worth keeping in. I don't know. Generally, there's just a lot more darker moments in this book than in the movie. And I get kind of why, but it's also like, But yeah, circling back to the star-crossed lovers thing, and they're playing it up, it's, again, it's really obvious in the book that Peta had feelings for her. And, you know, that line that he says, like, oh, Haymitch said it would take a lot of convincing for you, and she's like, wait, what? And then before they go have their interview, he says, you know, the Capitol's angry at you, or angry with you, and he says, you know, oh, she's like, well, have you told Peta this? And he says, no, he knows what to do. And then she finally tells Peta at the end. And that's when it's, like, obvious that the whole time he wasn't acting. It was never a strategy. And it's obvious to everyone except for, well, Katniss kind of is starting to understand it, but she thinks, like, well, even if he feels that way, you know, I wouldn't be enough. It doesn't matter, because no matter what, I can't make him happy. But either way, like, in the movies, that it was kind of more of, like, open. by the end, you know that Peta was in love with Katniss the whole time. But in the book, it's a lot more obvious that the whole time it wasn't an act. Because even in the movie, when he tells the same story he tells in the book about her singing the song, and that's what made him, fall in love. It was less. It hits less hard because it's so quick, and you don't really know that it's an actual story. Versus in the book, when he tells that story, she's like, wait, but this whole thing is supposed to be made up. What he's talking about really happened. So does that mean this whole time all of it has been real? But damn. On another note, something that's really emphasized in the book that I really liked was the way that they have to like constantly watch what they're saying and be aware of how they say it. Like again, when Haymitch tells Katniss that she has to play up the whole thing, he like hugs her and then like kind of like mumbles into her so that his mouth is covered. Versus like in the movie, he was just like telling her while they're in an elevator, it's like, like they're not happy with you. Again, it's just like another emphasis on how much control the Capitol really has, which is something that would have been cool to see in the movie. And that was just like a little detail that they just changed that's kind of odd. Another thing to note is I don't know, I like Haymitch more in the books. Like, I like Haymitch in the movies, but I like him more after rereading this book. The scene where he's like, you know what, we'll make a deal. You don't interfere with my drinking, and I'll stay sober enough to help you out. Like, or even the scene before her interview, and he just, like, sits there and stares at her, and she's like, what? And she's like, I'm trying to figure out what, like, what approach to go with here. And then the scene with Cinna, where before she goes on, she's like, well, I'm terrible. And he says I'm hostile. And he's like, well, yeah, when you're hostile when you're talking to Haymitch, but not when you're talking to me. I don't know. It's more obvious that he cares, I think, in this book. And I just feel more sympathetic toward him in the book. It is, however, 3 a.m, and I want to start the second book because this was so good. And I'm afraid because Catching Fire, as much as I love it, it also breaks my fucking heart. But also, this is so good. So here's me, and those are my thoughts on The Hunger Games, reading The Hunger Games for the first time in 8 years. Stay tuned for Catching Fire. Also, I'm going to annotate them after I finish the trilogy. So, I'm going to read the trilogy all the way through, and then I'm going to reread it and annotate it. We're going to be talking about The Hunger Games for a minute.